Hey guys, this is Evan Chino. I'm back with another video. Today I decided to do something a little different. I'm going to be doing a ranking video, something I've never really done before. This time I'm going to be ranking every Michigan season in the Jim Harbaugh era, which is from 2015 to 2023. Since Jim Harbaugh is no longer the head coach of Michigan, I was thinking about how would I rank all the seasons, but then I decided just to make a video out of it. So let's get into this list. I'm going to start with the worst season, and then we'll just get better from there. All right. So in my opinion, the worst season in Michigan football history under Jim Harbaugh is 2020. Now we'll just go here. Now Michigan was terrible in 2020, as you can see right there. We went 2-4. Our wins were against a ranked Minnesota team, won 49-24. At that point, people thought, this Michigan team might be pretty good. I mean, Minnesota was ranked and they scored 49 points on them. But then after that, it just gets downhill from there. Michigan's last three games of the season were canceled due to a COVID outbreak on campus. So Michigan, they finished 2-4 in the conference and overall because Michigan did not play a non-conference opponent in 2020 because of COVID. The good of 2020, they had a dominating win against a ranked Minnesota team in their first game, like I already mentioned. Um, Benching Joe Milton and putting in Cade McNamara helped put Michigan at a 3 overtime win against Rutgers, which potentially saved Jim Harbaugh's job. If Michigan loses that game, a lot of people theorize that Michigan would have fired Jim Harbaugh if they lost that game. Backup Cade McNamara looks promising. He came in against Rutgers and looked great. Came in against Wisconsin when Michigan was getting blown out and led a touchdown drive. But then Cade McNamara would, when his first and only start of 2020, would lose to a winless Penn State team. But like I said, Michigan was pretty bad in 2020. And I put this as a good thing because I think if you're a Michigan fan, you can admit this was a good thing. COVID saves Michigan the embarrassment of being absolutely crushed by Ohio State. We all know Ohio State was really good in 2020. They were a national championship appearance team, but they would lose to Alabama. But they went to the national championship 2020. They would have destroyed Michigan. That game would have been at Ohio State. Um, don't even want to think about. Maybe they would have put 100 up, like what Ryan Day likes to say. Um, the bad of 2020. It's Michigan's first losing season since 2014, the first and only losing season under Jim Harbaugh. Joe Milton, who was a promising backup quarterback the past 2 seasons, looks terrible. Joe Milton would play in some snaps in 2018 and 19, and he looked promising. Like this guy could be a starter down the line. Joe Milton was terrible. And then after 2020, he transfers to Tennessee, and he looked. The play this past season, he started, and they were all right. Joe Milton isn't going to be anything special. Michigan loses at home to Michigan State despite being 24-point favorites. Now, I know in 2020 being at home didn't matter that much because they weren't allowed to hold fans, but still. Michigan loses to Indiana for the first time since 1987, led by a man named Michael Penix Jr., which is the guy that Michigan will see later on down the road. And Michigan gets blown out at home against Wisconsin 49-11. It was a terrible year to say the least for Michigan. But moving on, the second worst season in Michigan under Jim Harbaugh was 2017. Michigan was coming off a great year in 2016, in my opinion. They had a lot of expectations going into this year. They did lose Jabril Peppers, but they brought back their quarterback in Wilton Spate. The defense looks good again, but I think we all agree Michigan just heavily disappointed in 2017. They went 8-5 overall, 5-4 in the conference. They would lose to MSU, Penn State, Wisconsin, Ohio State, and then South Carolina. Bad year for Michigan. Just looking at the scores, Michigan never scored a lot of points. Michigan never scored at least 40 points in a game, which is what they averaged in 2016. And then you go into 2017, they couldn't even get to that number at all. But the good of 2017, this is the only stuff I could come up with. Michigan starts season beating a ranked SEC team in a neutral site game, and Cron Higdon was pretty much the only highlight of the offense. Credit to my buddy Ethan for giving me that one, because I literally could not think of anything good about the 2017 team. The only reason why they're ranked higher than 2020 is because Michigan 2017 actually won a lot of games. I shouldn't say a lot, but they won like four more like four. They won a lot of games. But the bad 2017, I have a lot. Michigan's offense takes a huge step down from 2016. And a crazy stat, Michigan's wide receivers only get 3 touchdowns all year, and they were all within the first 2 games. They had 1 against Florida and 2 against Cincinnati. After that, Michigan receivers would not get a single touchdown. It would all be tight ends or running backs or defensive or special teams. Michigan finishes the season unranked despite peaking at number 7. Michigan loses to unranked Michigan State at home in torrential downpour. Quarterback Wilton Spate suffers season-ending injury against Purdue. So another big thing with 2017, Michigan had to go back and forth between quarterbacks, John O'Korn and Brandon Peters. Both weren't very good. Brandon Peters was definitely better in my opinion, but John O'Korn was terrible. Brandon Peters wasn't any good either. Brandon Peters would eventually end up transferring to Illinois, who would do better over there. Michigan gets blown out by Penn State 42-13, and a terrible one. Michigan had a 19-3 lead in their bowl game against South Carolina. They end up blowing that lead and losing 26-19 to finish that 8-5. But at number 7, I have 2019. In 2019, Michigan would go 9-4 and finish 6-3 in their conference. Their losses would be on the road to Wisconsin, on the road at Penn State, and at home against Ohio State, and then the bowl game against Alabama. Michigan would actually get some offensive points here. They scored 52 against Rutgers. That was their peak for that year. And then they had that stinker against Iowa where they were only able to put up 10 points, but nonetheless, they still won the game. The good of 2019, Michigan would blow out number 8 Notre Dame at home 45-14 to get revenge from their loss at Notre Dame the previous year. Michigan would blow out Michigan State 44-10. Michigan would win 2 games against ranked teams, those being Notre Dame and who's the other one? Iowa. Yeah, Iowa's a completely forgettable team. Michigan gets a shutout win against Rutgers 52-0. Shea Patterson had an amazing performance against Indiana where he would throw for 5 touchdowns and almost 400 yards. But here's the bad of 2019. Michigan's ball security sucks. If you're a Michigan fan that year, you remember Michigan fumbled the ball a lot. Literally, Michigan's first play of the 2019 season, Shea Patterson kept the ball, ran forward, he fumbled it, and Middle Tennessee recovered. Shea Patterson does not meet expectations. Patterson came in 2018. He looked great, and everybody was expecting him to have a much better season the next season. He didn't. But it wasn't any worse either. He just did the same. But he didn't meet expectations because he was expected to do better. Ronnie Bell's drop on 4th and goal against Penn State, you'll see on that left image right there. 4th and goal, Michigan's down 7 against a ranked Penn State team on the road. Patterson throws it to Ronnie Bell for what could potentially be the game-tying touchdown if the PAT was made. But Ronnie Bell dropped it, and it was a turnover on downs. Michigan barely scrapes by Army. Army is nothing special. And Army, none of the Service Academy football teams are anything special anymore. So if you're a powerhouse or supposedly supposed to be a powerhouse team and you struggle to them, then that's not good. Michigan gets blown out by Ohio State at home, which actually would be Shea Patterson's first and only loss in the Big House. Michigan loses another bowl game after having a scoreless second half against Bama. Michigan held a 16-14 lead at halftime and lost 35-16. And then, unfortunately for Shea, his last throw of his career would be an interception. So, not good in 2019. But at number 6, I have 2015, Harbaugh's first year at Michigan. 2015, Michigan would go 10-3, which Michigan fans were extremely happy with that result. The previous year they went 5-7, so this was a 5-game improvement from the previous season in just Harbaugh's first year. Their 3 losses would be on the road to Utah, at home against MSU, and at home against Ohio State. Now, the good of 2015, Michigan goes almost a whole month without allowing a single point. As you'll see right here, there's a 3-game stretch where Michigan just had 3 straight shutouts in a row with a 31-0 win over BYU, 28-0 over Maryland, 38-0 over Northwestern. Michigan would blow out Florida 41-7, to win the Citrus Bowl. Michigan has an amazing goal line stand to beat Minnesota, also helped by the fact that Minnesota wasted way too much time. And Jake Rudock had an amazing performance against Indiana where he would throw for 440 yards and 6 touchdowns. The bad of 2015, Jake Rudock throws 3 interceptions against Utah to lose in Jim Harbaugh's first game at Michigan. Michigan loses on a last-second play against Michigan State and what would be known as the punt miracle, which is the game that those are the 3 words you do not want to bring up to a Michigan fan. And Michigan gets blown out at home by Ohio State 42-13 in Jim Harbaugh's first game in the game. So overall in 2015, this was a good season for Michigan. They were at 5-7 the previous year, so nobody was expecting anything special in that first year, and they go 10-3. At number 5, I have 2018. Just like in 2015, Michigan would go 10-3 again. It would go 8-1 in the conference. That loss would be to Ohio State. Their other 2 was to Notre Dame and Florida. The good of 2018, Michigan would go undefeated at home. That will be something that I won't bring up later on, but at the time, that was a pretty big deal. Michigan blew out ranked Wisconsin 38-13. Michigan blew out ranked Penn State 42-7. Karan Higdon had another great rushing season for Michigan, and Shea Patterson looks great in his first year at Michigan, but like I mentioned previously, his next season he would underperform. The bad of 2018, Michigan would lose the first game of the season to their rival Notre Dame 24-17 in Shea Patterson's first game at Michigan. Michigan blows a chance to go to the Big Ten Championship and the playoffs by losing in the game once again, 62-39. My friend Ethan knows that game very well. I am officially giving up. Michigan gets blown out in the Peach Bowl, 41-15 against Florida. And then Devin Bush has an incident at Spartan Stadium that makes Michigan look bad. If you don't know what it is, Devin Bush was on the field pregame, and then Michigan State started doing their march thing that they do every game, and then Devin Bush started pushing and fighting people. Number 4, I have 2016. 2016, Michigan once again would go 10-3, 7-2 in the conference. Those losses would be to Iowa, Ohio State, and Florida State. Michigan would have 3 teams with Jim Harbaugh go 10-3. The reason why I put the 2016 team at the top is because of just how amazing Michigan's offense was that year. I mean, you could just look at those scores for yourself. 63, 51, 45, 49, 78, 41, 59. I mean, Michigan scored a lot that year. The good of 2016, Michigan beats Rutgers 78-0 in Michigan's biggest blowout win of the Harbaugh era. Michigan beats top 10 ranked Wisconsin at home 14-7. Jabril Peppers has an amazing season and finishes 5th in Heisman voting. And Michigan's offense averaged 40.3 points per game that season. You would go 1 year later, Michigan couldn't even get to 40 points. This year, Michigan did that on average. The bad of 2016, Michigan would lose to unranked Iowa on the road to ruin their undefeated season. Michigan would lose on the road to Ohio State to ruin a chance at the Big Ten Championship game and playoffs as they would lose 30-27 and 2 overtimes. Michigan lose to Florida State in the Orange Bowl 33-32. They were down 20-6 at halftime. They made a bit of a comeback, but they fell short. And I just include this. This team was extremely talented, but they only went 10-3. Like, this, just the offensive production was amazing. The defensive production was amazing too. This team just still underperformed. At number 3, I have 2021. Now we're getting to the 2020s decade more, but this is the good part of it. Michigan will go 12-2 this season. They would win 12 games in a year for the first time since 1997. They would go 8-1 in the conference. That loss being to Michigan State, and the other loss to Georgia in the Orange Bowl. The good of 2021, Michigan wins at Camp Randall Stadium for the first time since 2001. Michigan beats Ohio State for the first time since 2011 in a 42-27 win in the Big House. Michigan crushes Iowa 42-3 to win Michigan their first Big Ten championship since 2004. Cade McNamara steps up to the hype from 2020 and leads Michigan the first college football playoff appearance. The Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum running back duo is amazing. And defensive end Aiden Hutchinson has an amazing season and finishes second in Heisman voting. He would end the season with 14 sacks, which was the most of any player in a season in Michigan history. But the bad of 2021, just a couple things, which was their 2 losses. Michigan blows 30-14 lead to lose 33-37 on the road to Michigan State. And Michigan gets blown out by Georgia in the Orange Bowl 34-11. And the number 2 is second best season. I have 2022. 2022, Michigan would go 13-1, 9-0 in the conference. Their only loss would be to TCU in the Fiesta Bowl. The good of 2022, J.J. McCarthy replaces Cade McNamara, and he plays better than Cade did in 21, in my opinion. Michigan crushes number 10 Penn State 41-17. Michigan beats Ohio State in Columbus for the first time since 2000. Michigan has first undefeated regular season since 1997. Michigan wins second straight Big Ten title. Blake Corum has a Heisman potential season, and kicker Jake Moody becomes the all-time leading scorer in Michigan history. But Blake Corum, amazing season in 2022, and no doubt I think he could have won the Heisman. But unfortunately, as we'll see on this next page, the bad of 2022, Blake Corum's Heisman potential season was ended short with a season-ending knee injury against Illinois, and then TCU upsets Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl 51-45 to end Michigan's season. But it all comes down to the next season, which was the best season of the Jim Harbaugh era, which if you don't have this as the best year in Michigan Jim Harbaugh history, you're a fool. 2023. Michigan, obviously, wins the national championship. They go 15-0. Michigan beat everybody they played in 2023. The good of 2023, there was a lot of good from this season. Michigan beats number 10 Penn State on the road. Michigan beats Ohio State for the third straight season. Michigan wins their third straight Big Ten title. Michigan beats Alabama in the Rose Bowl to win Michigan their first bowl game since 2015. Michigan beats Washington to win their first national championship since 1997. And running back Blake Corum becomes the all-time leading touchdown scorer in Michigan history. And I've had some bad from 2023, which we all know what the bad is, was the cheating scandals. Harbaugh was suspended 6 games for 2023. The first 3 were due to recruiting violations, and the last 3 were due to the cheating scandal. And Michigan low-level staffer Connor Stallions goes rogue and in-person scouts teams. Because of this, Michigan goes through a cheating scandal. But that is Michigan's seasons with Jim Harbaugh ranked from worst to best. And this is just, once again, I made a video about this already, but thank you, Jim Harbaugh, for everything you've done at Michigan. He would finish his career at Michigan with an 89-25 record, 3 Big Ten championships, and 1 national championship. And yes, I did count the games that the interim head coach's coach cry about it. So thank you, everybody, for watching this video. If there's something that you felt like I didn't include, like something good or something bad by any of these teams, feel free to comment about it down below and let me know, and I'll reply to it. But thank you guys for watching this video. I'll see you guys next time.